The most noteworthy news item is that Trevor Carrington Racing, which fields cars 20 and 29, is not here this week. In Russia, on the Tuesday before the race, it was announced that Trevor Carrington's entry had been sold to Togliatti, and that in place of the two Trevor Carrington cars on the grid would be the two Togliattis, cars 81 and 84. I'm not entirely sure that went well with TM Master Cup Series officials, and that could incur all sorts of wrath. A Trevor Carrington Racing representative said that the team would be present in the Czech Republic and would continue to race in the TM Master Cup Series, and that this was only a one-off thing. If Trevor Carrington's team escapes a fine, they'll be very lucky indeed. Dan, off to you. Thank you, Lance. Taking out the Delano Pole Award for the 2011 round of Russia is Lewis Kingston driving for Owen DeGarmo in the Juno. This is also the Juno's first pole. Nils Talonen started on the outside of the front row, and as you'll see, that was a very ragged start, but Talonen is going to get the lead because this is a temporary airport circuit, and of course there are lots of rather large bumps here. Kingston hit one of them, and he also hit the wall pretty early on. Hitting that little curb didn't help. You can see that jammed up the whole field, took everyone by surprise. Here's Alexei Stoyanovich in car number 75 driving for Ian Masterson. And there he goes, out of the race immediately. This is only intended to be a one-off. That's Charlie Waters in the 10. Looks like he just drives straight into Yamino Tenchi, bounces into the 75, and knocks the 75 out. That's one of the local entries. Stoyanovich drove for Katsev last year in this race, though not at this racetrack. More first-lap drama. Scott Hamilton and Scott Stoidler get together, and I don't think Scott Stoidler took that all too well, and I don't think the officials did either. Stoidler failed to qualify for Coriel, and it doesn't look like he's had a good return. And yeah, that looked like Hamilton just laid on the rear bumper of the Camelot Racing Trumwell in King Arthur's Chariot, number 23. Arto Kakkonen started this race in 7th, however, he's going to get an interesting start to this race after Zach Duff knocks Zelda Ashby into him. Chris Johans gets into the 55 car. Alexis Rainsford tries to get through it, gets jammed up in this mess as well, so Zach Duff not doing his teammate any favors. Arto had a very strong car in practice. In fact, Arto had the quickest car in final practice, and that's going to be a shame because Arto has so much damage that I doubt he'll be competitive for the rest of the day. We got more problems up here. What's this? Zelda Ashby looks like she just got turned around. Both of the Gesslers are in it. I see Leon Kennison and Luciano Salvarol in here. Towards the end of the first lap, it looked like, Charlie Waters again. Wow, he just dumped Zelda Ashby right. That's Woody Watts is in it. Both the STS cars, both the Gesslers, both the Tutinos. Luciano Salvarol, I already mentioned. And Scott Stoidler, I think, got a piece of that. And there's the 8. That white and black car is the one-off cars. You have Yevgeny Kuznetsov. We'll talk about him later. But the 10 car just flat out dumped the 55 car, and that I think was way out of line even for the first lap. On board with Avery Holtzman, of course, he's leading the championship coming into this race, and he was involved in this mess. And there's the wreck up ahead. And he tries to find, but there's Gasper D'Souza in the 40 car. Of course, D'Souza's had a pretty luckless couple of races. And D'Souza goes out, Holtzman keeps going. Dennis Predikin is driving that black 43 car for Scuderia Tutino, and Vitaly Lavrin driving car number 42. Lavrin drove car number 61 at Volgaring last year. And that was the same car that Dennis Predikin drove at Indianapolis in 2009. So both these drivers have very limited experience in TM Master Cup Series cars, and they're both driving for Tutino in this race in front of their home crowd. They weren't doing so bad, but it does seem like they haven't gotten off to a very good start. A puncture brings Marcus Leonard into the pits after the first lap from 5th place. You'll notice those two active time penalties that just went up. Vitaly Karpinko in the first of the Togliatti started 19th. He's 14th by the end of the first lap, and he's having a very good race so far in this Togliatti 111, and I think I saw a puff of smoke coming out of the 84 car. I'll have to see if that develops into anything. Anyway, Karpinko is having a very strong opener to this. Oh, wait a minute, that was something major. 84 car slowing down. Karpinko's done after one lap. Oh boy. After lap 3, Nils Talonen has a very healthy lead over Matthias Taub. Lewis Kingston has dropped to 3rd. Nasova in the Katsev running on awesome 4th. Scott Bates, way to avenge a Cariella DNQ so far. Going a bit further down, you see Devereaux, the two SARs running very strongly. And you'll also notice Ethan Everett in car number 11 is up to 17th. Awesome drive from Everett, and also for Mikhail Polyakov in car 24. We haven't seen anything about what's going to happen to the 46 car of Scott Hamilton yet. We'll have to wait and see on that. Adrian Devereaux whacks the wall on lap 3. Devereaux's not been too fond of this track. Well, looks like the car's okay in that 26 Colt Morel Corsair. He's fighting off the Team Star USA cars at the moment. And, oh, wait, maybe it's not okay. Suspension failures put Devereaux out of the race, but then the unthinkable happens. Tony Durbin and Mike Whitmore just got together! Durbin and Whitmore collide, and Durbin goes into the wall! The two Team Star USA cars run into each other over on lap 3. It looks like Durbin was just clearing Devereaux, didn't even see Mike Whitmore, but if you're Mike Whitmore, you've got to be paying attention to the cars in front of you. Oh boy, I think there's equal amounts of blame to be put in that one because that just seemed silly. No better word to put it. There's Devereaux in the 26 car. Tony Durbin can't be too happy about this. Although Tony Durbin's interview after the race, he pretty much brushed it off. Alexis Rainsford is in 31st place. She pitted after the first lap due to damage, and she's been reporting some problems with this number 1 Volpe. We'll have to keep an eye on that, but it has not been a very good start for the Cariala winner. Bill Stalonen in car number 22 is a very healthy lead. He is an Independence Trophy entry, and he is doing what he should be, and that's leading the race. He's had a very disastrous few Independence runs. Yevgeny Kuznetsov is another one of the one-off drivers here. A puncture brought him in from 19th place. He's 28th, a lap down, fighting Jacques Bouvier in car number 7 for 27th place. They're a lap down, and that is Chris Johans, and he is on the lead lap, and it's kind of a difficult situation when you have two lap cars fighting for position in front of you. Scott Bates is running in 3rd. This is way to avenge a Cariala DNQ. And you'll notice the leader's going around Bouvier, who's got all sorts of problems. Bates is having a very strong race. He really has not shown too much in the opening part of the year. He's getting beaten by Charlie Waters, but it looks like Scott Bates has finally found his stride, and we could see some very strong runs from the EFR boys in the future. Zach Duff hits the wall, spins off the rear end of the 27 car, the 7 car, excuse me. So it looks like Duff stays going from bad to worse. He's already got a time penalty, so he is way far down in the field, and that's definitely not going to help him too much. Chris Johans is running in car number 64, running in 5th place. A very strong run for the former Arla champion. Not really known as a road racer, but looks like he's picked it up quite well. And this is a temporary circuit, and this is not something I think he's used to, driving on airport runways. In fact, none of these drivers have driven on this track before. This is a new arrangement. Jacques Bouvier, car 7, back up with him. He's had a miserable day, to say the least. The Frenchman bounces off the wall, spins up. It's the exact same thing what happened to Zach Duff just a lap earlier. Whoa, Mike Whitmore gets into him. And, oh, Charlie Waters, I think, got a piece of that, too. Or he just barely missed. Whoa, Leon Keniston in the 39. Comes flying through the middle and doesn't hit it. Nice move by Keniston. Mike Whitmore is going to be knocked out of the race, so another disaster for the Team Star USA boys. And how about no love lost? Scott Stoidler was no fan of Mike Whitmore when both of them drove for Alan Hodges' team. And I think old rivalries die hard, because Scott Stoidler decided to kick Whitmore while he was down. I don't think the officials took to that too kindly. We'll have to see if anything happens to Stoidler for that. I don't really think it matters if anything does, because Stoidler's quite a long ways down anyway. Yamino Tenchi is having problems with the 831 car. All the bumps on this circuit have rattled something loose in that car, and Yamino Tenchi goes out of the race. An unfortunate occurrence for Tenchi. Here's Alexis Rainsford. You might have noticed, just got put a lap down. She is beginning to report engine problems with the number 1 Volpe, and that is, well, not exactly a good start to the race for Alexis. She came in here 2nd in the championship. She's looking for her 3rd Master Cup, and if she wins it, she'll be the first person to win 2 in a row since Leonid Roderick over 10 years ago. Matthias Tau pits car number 37 from 2nd place. In case you were looking for him in those past 2 shots, this is what happened to him. He was right behind Talonen and pitted early. 1 lap later, Scott Bates brings car number 88 into the pits from 3rd place. Here's Tom Delgado in car 837, staying out a bit longer. He's running in 4th. Charlie Waters behind him would be running in 5th place if it were not for an active time penalty. Oh, they make contact! Charlie Waters just spun Tom Delgado out of 4th place! Delgado into the barriers, and he cannot be happy about that one. Takumi Katashima will definitely be protesting that one. Katashima is, of course, the team owner for Star Team Nemoto. But Charlie Waters, who's already been given an active time penalty, is probably going to get another one for just dumping Tom Delgado out of 4th. Oh boy, this is going to get interesting behind the wall, because Tom Delgado is one of the more explosive drivers on the circuit. He just hits the wall, makes a mistake. Charlie Waters has a run on him, and this is just an insane maneuver. That wasn't even close to being an accident. Charlie Waters just flat out wrecked Tom Delgado. I don't think there's any other excuse for that. There's no excuse for that at this level of racing. Charlie Waters in car number 10 is probably going to want to head to the airport immediately after the race because I don't think his fellow driver is going to be too happy with him after this one. Anyway, running here with Kurt Pliskin in car 16. His day ends early. He's been in the pits several times, and this just makes his day worse with a blown engine. Looks like this bumpy track has really begun to take its toll. Taub wins the battle in the pit stop cycle, and he comes out with the lead in the Ocean Motorsports Lennart R37. For most of the season, in fact, that's still the case right now, he's had negative points because of a penalty he obtained at Carbondale, and he hasn't scored any points in the championship, so he's had a negative points for quite some time. Roderick and Roswell had some good pit stops. Talonen lost out a bit. Scott Bates in car number 88 dropped a bit. Bobby Porteau in the 15 car, one of the big winners, pitted very early. Lewis Kingston in car number 44, we believe, copped a speeding penalty, so he'll be in again in the Juno. Looking a bit further down, Ethan Everett, an awesome drive up to 10th place, and the two Katzovs, 13th and 14th, right there. And then the two Xenos cars. Still haven't heard anything about Scott Hamilton. I'm a little surprised about that. I think, there we go. Looks like that'll be looked at later. Here we go, a little bit further back. Here's a car you might recognize. It's the Togliatti of number 81. However, does that driver name look familiar? It should. It's the same Lev Vladimirovich Polzin that was horrendously bad in his home race a couple of years ago. Last year, we had a reduced field, but he still proved to be an adequate driver, and now he's doing an awesome job running into the top 10. And once again, here's Ethan Everett in car number 11. He's had a very difficult past couple of years. He won on his debut. He's got a lot of potential to be a superstar in this series. However, last year he didn't have a whole lot of luck, and it's hard to compete in a team as a rookie when you have two championship contenders in the same team. Yulia Nasova in car 34, as I mentioned earlier, also having an awesome run in the Katsiv. Nasova has had a very luckless year, of course. Blowing up at Karyala while running in second was just absolutely crushing to that team. However, Ivan Katz's boys have fought back, those boys and girls have fought back, and Nasova's having a strong race. Avery Holtzman is about 5 laps down. Alexis Rainsford is only 1 lap down. And Holtzman has really not been a good back marker. In fact, he has very little experience of being a back marker. He's 4 laps behind Alexis Rainsford, which is probably why Rainsford didn't cop an active time penalty for putting him in the wall over there. I don't think the officials are too happy with how this 95 car has been conducting himself as a back marker. He's been sort of racing everybody as if they're fighting for position. And I don't exactly think that's the way we're going to make friends out here. However, to be fair, Holtzman has been complaining of an ill-handling car all race, and this is a very narrow circuit with very few places to actually get by a slower car. Lev Vladimirovich Polzin having an awesome run in car number 81, as I mentioned earlier. However, this is going to all come to an end with a big cloud of smoke. Unfortunately, this is going to be another retirement from this race from Lev Vladimirovich, and I think he quite clearly earned respect today for an awesome drive in that underfunded Togliatti. Here is Nils Talonen in car 22, and he's in trouble. He's got a flat tire, I think. From second place, Talonen in the FinTech car. Oh, no! That was another awesome drive. Talonen, last year's Team Europe champion. He's got a tire down. He's a long ways ahead of... There's Roderick in third, and Roderick will end up blowing by Talonen and taking over second place. Oh, Talonen hits the wall just to get out of the way. And there goes Roderick and the lapped car of Scott Stoiler. Michael Sykes also a lap down. Here is Avery Holtzman again. And, Nasova not terribly happy with Holtzman. Holtzman bounces off the wall, but again, he's 5 laps down. And, I think they just sort of caught him in a really bad place because, Avery Holtzman not exactly taking too kindly to Nasova putting him in the wall there. And you can see right here, this part of the track is very tight, so it's hard to get by a slower car, but down this long straightaway. Now here's Charlie Waters, and he's finally going to put Avery Holtzman out of his and everyone else's misery. And the previous part of the track was not really a good place to catch a back marker. However, it seems like you can easily get by a back marker without just dumping him into the fence like that. I think especially if your name is Charlie Waters today, you're going to avoid running into people. Or maybe that's not the case, because Charlie Waters hits the pit lane. Well, Alexis Rainsford, car number 1. All things are going to come to an end. You can see that car has finally given up the ghost. So Alexis Rainsford in car number 1 will not score points today. She came in here second in the championship. Holtzman, the points leader, also no points. Dennis Predican in the 43 car also loses the motor in that Togliatti, and he goes out of the race. And here we are with Nils Stalonen again. He's stuck behind Scott Stoyler. They're fighting for position, and it doesn't look like they're playing terribly nice with each other. Dale Roswell, car 17, he is running very strongly at the moment. However, he hits the pit lane early. He kicks off the next cycle of green flag pit stops. I mentioned these two weren't playing nice with each other. Here's what I meant. Nils Stalonen gets a little bit frustrated being held up behind Scott Stoyler and just turns him into the wall. That's a battle for position, unlike some of the other incidents we've seen, so I don't think that's going to go over too well with the officials. And as you can see, it didn't. And here's Matthias Taub. He pits just a couple laps after Roswell does, and then Roderick pits on the same lap as Taub. So it looks like Roderick is just trying to mirror Matthias Taub and salvage a good points day. Scott Bates is the last car to pit in this number 88 EFR journey. Tire wear has been very atrocious at this track, so there's been a big difference in lap time between cars that stay out longer and cars that pit early. Taub, once again, emerges as the leader after the next pit stop sequence, and he's got a fairly healthy lead on lap 25. And we're waiting for Leonid Roderick to cross the stripe. This is going to be a while. There he is, car number 4, waiting for third place now. These two cars have a huge lead, and Taub in particular has been doing an awesome job because nobody is even close to what he's been running around the racetrack. Taub doing an awesome job of saving his tires, and there's Bates and Alan Hodges in 4th, and he's been doing an awesome job of preserving his tires and making them last longer. Also, Chris Johans and Ethan Everett, great job from those two drivers. Dale Roswell had a slow pit stop. Woody Watts having a good race, and so is Leon Keniston in the second Leonard R37. Nasova been clawing her way up through the field in the Katziv. Charlie Waters in car number 10. His car finally gives it the ghost. It blows up right as he passes the pit lane. Actually, I think this was an oil pump failure that finally ends his day and gives everyone else on the racetrack one less thing to worry about. He's been called to the steward's office after the race, and I think some very heavy penalties are going to be on hand. But here he is entering the pits, finally, and incoming. Oops. Don't think that was intentional. I think Kuznetsov slid on some oil and into the back of Charlie Waters. That looked pretty silly, though. Leonid Roderick in the closing stages of the race is caught in between two lap cars fighting for position. Vitaly Lavrin in car 42 has actually worked his way into the points. Robert Dorian in car number 47 is currently running in 16th place, right behind Lavrin, who's currently in, I believe, 15th. Because two cars in front of him on the road. Zach Duff has been copped with an active time penalty already. Roderick trying to get by the 42 car, and this isn't going to be too easy because Robert Dorian is going to immediately pounce, and Lavrin is aware of that. So it's a really complicated situation here. You can't really just expect the lap cars to roll over and play. Oh, Dorian and Roderick made contact, but the officials let that one slide. Roderick didn't exactly do any damage. Oh, there goes the 42! Lavrin just got turned around by Dorian. Now here, it looks like Lavrin, when he hit the brakes, just stacked up Roderick, and that put Dorian into Roderick, so that was kind of just racing incident. But I think Dorian just got a little frustrated. Dumps the 42 car into the wall, and that's not going to sit well with the home crowd, or with the officials, who have really been handing out ATPs like candy today. And if you've seen the driving on here, I think that's warranted. Anyway, here we are with Alan Hodges running in 4th. This is probably the cure to his miserable start to the season in that car number 13. Alan Hodges has been beaten quite regularly by Adrian Devereaux, his teammate, and he's really trailing Devereaux in the points, despite being faster than Devereaux a good portion of the time on some tracks. However, he just doesn't seem to have had the luck to chain together some results. Alan Hodges contended for the championship last year. He is the first non-American to win a points race, and it seems that his season has, well, I don't think he's going to be challenging for the championship, but this is not the best season for Alan Hodges. Despite that, it's a good season for his team so far, as Adrian Devereaux has already... Whoa, he's racing there with Scott Bates for position. Two hard, clean racers there. Meanwhile, back with Vitaly Lavrin in car 42, Tom Delgado is right behind him, and that is for position, and so is Nils Salonen in the 22 car. There it goes. Delgado clears the Tutino, who's looking at his first points of the season. Tutino is, I believe, the only team to have not actually scored points yet. So that's kind of a big black mark against them so far. Of course, that when I say only team not to score points, that I'm only counting full-time teams when I say that. Right behind him, Nils Talonen tries to make a move. Talonen trying to make a little close. Oh, Lavrin throws the block. Looked like Talonen was going to try the outside. Lavrin was aware of that. And Lavrin and oh, they get together! Lavrin goes around, and that's going to put him out of the race. Oh no, that's good. That was points he lost. This is kind of an interesting one here because Lavrin looks like he goes wide, and then he almost cuts down into Talonen, but Talonen pushes up into him. So I have to say that one was kind of was nobody's fault. Despite all the carnage, Matthias Taub in car number 37 walks off to take his first win of the season in a spectacular performance that saw him dominate all but the first third of this race. Matthias Taub of Sweden takes a second Master Cup Series victory. His first was the Karjala Grand Prix last year. Completing the podium are four-time TM Master Cup Series champion Leonid Roderick and Scott Bates from Oklahoma. Puts the EFR Journey on the podium and back in the spotlight. Alan Hodges couldn't get around Scott Bates. Those two very hard, clean racers fought all the way to the bitter end, but it was Bates who emerged victorious for the last podium position. Chris Johan settles for the top 5. Another awesome drive from Ethan Everett to put car number 11 in the top 10 after starting all the way back in 31st on the grid. Dale Roswell finishes a strong 7th place. He well and easily had the handle of his teammate today. We don't normally see that. Bobby Porteau puts the Rick Milligan cars, both of them in the top 10. Yulia Nasova, an awesome drive in the Katsev. She started 3rd but dropped back to 9th, but it's still a good job for her to actually get a good points finish today. Luciano Savaral in car number 3 wound up 10th at the end of the day. After that, the results are largely affected by active time penalties. Zach Duff finished 11th anyway, stayed where he was in the results. Scott Hamilton's active time penalty threw him back to 13th from 12th. And then, of course, Robert Dorian lost a couple of positions due to an active time penalty, as did Nils Talonen in car number 22. And here are the points. Leaving the round of Russia, Holtzman, Rainsford, and Deveros didn't score any points. Roderick has closed the gap, though. Tenchi didn't score any points, neither did Kurt Pliskin or Arto Kekkonen. Franz Redlich didn't come home with points. Chris Johans did. A little bit further down, you will notice that Luciano Savaral and Dale Roswell are beginning to make some serious headway, and also that Scott Bates in the 88 car has jumped up in the top 20 in the points. Also, Charlie Waters was docked 15 points after the race for causing as many incidents as he did, and he was also given a suspended 2-race ban. And if he does get a suspended 2-race ban, the guy right in front of him in the championship will be on the grid in his stead. That is Ian Cooper, who has only run the Karjala Grand Prix, but his 4th place still keeps him 19th in the championship. And here are the Independence Trophy points leaving Russia. You will notice that the number 75 car driven by Carlos Danzello and Alexei Stoyanovich, both drivers' points add up to that amount, and that's why they are listed as the same entry. You can use as many drivers as you like for an Independence Trophy entry under the rules.